Hi, and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons with Scott and Friends. Tonight, I'm honored to be joined by a couple of my kids. Andrea is joining me for the third time, and then my son Ben is joining us for what is hopefully not the last time. But anyway, welcome you guys. I know you guys have really busy schedules, and it means a lot for you to take some time to help your old man out.
Pleasure.
Absolutely.
So
Happy to be here.
yeah, glad you were able to make it. So Andrea, last time we met, you and I talked on one episode, and then we had Kim join us. And one of the things that we kind of left off with that you had alluded to was how some of the discipline and different settings that you guys found yourselves in growing up kind of help prepare for what ultimately you guys ended up doing after graduating college and are moving out of the house. So if you want, I'll throw it to you to kind of kick off and kind of expand on that.
Yeah, so I know we talked about, I kind of brought up just the realization of, thinking back on the good, the bad, kind of how we were raised, talking about the subject of parenting and, kind of our different, very different life paths, both, what we've ended up doing, but also where we've ended up living. And the fact that we were, kind of all technically prepared in the same way, but it brought us to this place of being able to do very different things. I think that's very unique. And I think there's, a lot of things to unpack there. But, I think it's great that Ben's on here for this too, because he's a great example, having taken, he's living in Nashville now, moved out to Arizona. We've touched on a few things that I think contributed to that. We talked about discipline, kind of that family unit and togetherness, always coming back together at the end of the day, but also just exposure, to different cultures, different thought processes. And I think overall, just the mindset of being open, to learning different things. So, that would be kind of an overview of what
Yeah,
I think of initially, but
yeah, I think it was Kim that brought up that in the South around my family, it was yes sir, no sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am. But then when you would travel north with your mom's side of the family, it was very, very different. So I don't know if Ben, you have any recollections of what that was like.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about specifically going out to Arizona and spending time out there and really not having a lot going for me at the time and kind of having to make connections and make friends really quickly, or risk having to go back home. That was something that I knew was on the table if I didn't, figure things out. But um, there's a couple things that stick out to me from our childhood. Um, and I think that it's something that served me not only culturally in the different places that I've lived, but also getting into hospitality. But one of the biggest things that you specifically, I remember teaching us, and it's I believe it was Paul who, talking to Timothy, talked about being all things to all people. Um, and that was something that I remember you kind of drilling into us, really. But you were a social chameleon, and that you could, if we could go to a fine dining restaurant and you were absolutely in your element. We could go to a barbecue at a trailer park and you were absolutely in your element. And being able to stay in your element with changing circumstances, I think was something that you pushed all of us to do. And pushing us to be in circumstances where we did have to change our behaviors based on where we were and who we were around. and you had us do etiquette classes, and you had us learn how to appropriately present ourselves in different settings, and when it was appropriate to do one thing and not appropriate to do another thing, excuse me.
Right.
And that was something that's always been big. And I specifically remember you saying the ultimate cool is being able to walk into a room and stay exactly who you are. And I may have messed up that quote a little bit, but I remember it being something along those lines. And that's something that's always stuck out to me. Just the juxtaposition and the kind of duality of staying true to yourself at all times and becoming all things to all people, and just how that's helped me living in new places, staying true to myself while also immersing myself in a new culture and immersing myself in things that I have known nothing about. And then also getting into my career, being a bartender, staying true to who I am and my values, but also connecting with hundreds of people a day across all spectrum of ideologies and ways of thinking and things like that. I definitely attribute to us being pushed into situations where we may not have been comfortable,
Right.
but you taught us how to handle them. So
Yeah.
I think that duality is key though, like, because that's a danger that a lot of people fall into in trying to be all things to all people, which, it is not realistic.
right.
But, there is a way to balance being true to who you are.
Yep.
A lot of that comes to begin with knowing who you are in the first place, which was definitely stressed, having that base set of values, beliefs, things like that base that never changes, whether you're in, no matter what situation, no matter what city, you're in,
Yeah.
who you are at your core and your set of values and all that stays the same. Where you draw the line with certain things, what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not, those things stay the same.
Right.
And then from there, without becoming fake, still being authentic, but being able to adapt, just because I like nice champagne, doesn't mean that I'm going to demand it if I'm walking in to have, dinner at like Orion Steakhouse or something.
Right. Well, it's as simple as the broad spectrum of people that our family was associated with as we were growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
I can remember, meeting some of Dad's business partners and people with his job at Icon, and going over for a nicer dinner than I had ever seen. And I can remember going to different restaurants, and I can remember going to barbecues, with friends from when he was a kid. And I can remember going to, all sorts of events with people at our churches. And we were constantly associating with people of different backgrounds, whether that was religious or socioeconomic or whatever it was. Like, Pops, you and Mom didn't have just your set of friends who were in the same like class as you, or
Right.
religious background as you. It wasn't just this one set of friends, and that's who we grew up with. We were all over the board, so we got to experience so much just on who we broke bread with. And I think that was definitely a big deal.
I
Yeah.
think the exposure is like super key, because I don't think I realized at the time, it seemed normal because it was normal to us. I think it should be normal to everyone, but realizing at different points growing up how that wasn't the norm for everyone, that wasn't everyone's experience. on both ends of the spectrum. I remember at Southern, at school, I would meet friends that, grew up in really small town in South Georgia with like one stoplight. And this was like their first time outside of that town. And
Yeah.
that was all they knew, going to like Atlanta for a field trip or something. It was like, going to Paris or something. Like it was
Yeah.
this whole new world. And they were kind of shell shocked by the merging of different cultures and stuff. On the other hand, up here we have some people that like you meet that grew up in, Montauk, and all they know is like people that worked with their parents and like go yachting together every summer.
Right.
So, and really don't have that exposure to, like you said, like different socioeconomic classes or whatever.
Yeah.
So I
But
didn't realize how like unique it was that we had such varied experiences growing up until being
yeah.
exposed to people that really hadn't experienced that.
Well, and this may change gears a little bit, but I think that another big factor in just us for um, in the way that we process new cultures and new ideas and new things was in large part the way that we consumed media um, growing up. Thinking about being exposed to new ideas and new cultures. And, I know that because we were homeschooled for a number of years, that we had some friends and acquaintances that were not fortunate enough to be exposed to really anything. But we also just weren't given carte blanche of whatever we wanted to consume. It was a little bit more structured, and um, you know, watching a movie as a family and then sitting down and discussing the ideas in that movie as a family, and whether they were good things or bad things, or hey, this movie presented this and there are some people who believe this. We don't. But and not just any of us getting into high school after being homeschooled all those years and just not knowing anything. We did know quite a bit and were exposed to quite a bit of different cultures and different ideas through media, but they were always things that were on the table for discussion. Now, whether or not there were certain movies we could have been exposed to earlier is another debate. But at the end of the day, I'm very thankful for how we approached understanding everything that we were taking, and that made it easier. At least from my part, it made it easier for me to kind of sift through ideas and take a more objective approach to looking at media and looking at the different ideals presented.
Well, and that was very important for your mom and I to, as you guys got older, to broaden that horizon of what you were exposed to. And we were very intentional about the movies we watched, the music, books we allowed you guys to read at different times, events that you got to, take part in or not take part in. Did we nail that 100%? Probably not, but I can't go back and now and go, yeah, I wish we had done that. But the bottom line
Sure.
was, we wanted you guys to know this is out there. This is why we want you to be aware of it. Here's how we feel about it and how it aligns with our beliefs and how we approach life. But the whole time you guys were growing up, I mean, the whole thing was, at some point, you have to decide for yourself what you're going to be about, what are your beliefs going to be, and whatever those are, hold to them. And going back to the whole culture thing, for me personally, to me, it's always just been people. Whoever I'm around, they're people too.
Right.
I'm no better. I'm no worse. We're just all trying to get through this thing called life the best we can. So that was at the heart of at least my wanting to expose. And what made it so natural for me is I was just being me. I didn't know who else to be. And so if I'm in this situation, then I feel like I should act this way. And if I'm in this situation, I act this way. But at the bottom level, the core of who I am, I always try to treat people with respect, regardless of background or anything else. It was just, hey, let's do life, and until you prove me otherwise, I'm open to anyone. So,
Well, I think that was that really fed into something that I've prided myself on my ability is to find commonality and common ground with anybody that I meet. And of course, sometimes it's harder than others, especially when you're talking about a work scenario where you're kind of forced to be with these people, day in, day out. But being able to find commonality with people, I think, is something that I attribute to how we were raised, but I also attribute a lot of my success to, is being able to find common ground with people that if I didn't put in any effort, I probably wouldn't. But seeing you go the extra mile to find common ground with people all through my life has set an example for me to be, it almost feels second nature, where if I meet somebody and we don't click right away, I'm going to figure out, okay, how do I find common ground with this person? How do I find commonality with this person so that we can have a successful relationship, whether it be working or otherwise?
I think just the basic understanding or belief that that's there, that like
Mhm.
if you seek it, you'll find it, that there is commonality there somewhere in some way, and that, forces you to try a little bit harder, to bring that out. And it definitely does help a lot with um, any sort of relationship, whether it be just like a passing, short interaction, or, those more like long-standing relationships. So
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've learned over the years in the restaurant industry is, there's many times where you're forced to work with somebody that you just don't like. Um, that's bound to happen. I don't care what job you're in, you're going to work with people you don't like. And the option to just dismiss somebody as not worth your time and not worth your effort to make a connection with, that's a choice. You have to actively make that choice. And sometimes it's the right choice, but that's rare. More often than not, the right choice that's better for you and whatever business you're in is to find that common ground and find that value. Um, and so, it's really easy to be dismissive of people in a work scenario, but that's a choice that you make actively. And a lot of times to the detriment of the business that you're trying to work.
well, and how fulfilling is it to come to that, moment or succession of moments with someone who like was, too hard to crack, or everyone else has written off, and they're like, why are you still putting in the effort? Why do you care about this person? Like, dude, like, give it up. And then you start to see their,
Mhm.
behaviors kind of
Yeah.
change over that slow kind of process of breaking down barriers and not
How
letting that.
how many of your best friends or coworkers did you initially hate? or despise?
Well, I think we always
I
joke
mean,
with
one
Hillary.
comes to mind.
We always joke with Hillary about how like we were like sworn enemies in middle school.
Yeah,
I mean, several of the best coworkers I've ever had, uh, starting off, just did not get along, did not like each other. But you come to that crossroads, and you can either take the relationship as a loss, or you can find the value there and move on.
yeah, it's good. It's so as you guys were talking, I'm flashing back to being in high school. I think that's more or less where it started for me was I was a athlete and played some high school sports and was very active in rec ball, but I wasn't just a jock. I certainly wasn't the smartest in high school, and so I wasn't with the academics. Um, I guess you use the word chameleon, and that's kind of where I was in high school. That I would hang out with anybody, and um, I to me it's about finding the value that people have, and then the most important part of that is what value am I bringing
Hmm.
to that relationship? Because if I'm back to your point, if I'm not putting in the effort and I'm going at it, half-hearted, whoever it is I'm trying to relate to, they know that, they see that. But if I'm authentic and can try to bring value, now there's some people who just they don't want it, and that's where break the
Right.
break the ties and go about your day. And that's biblical too. I won't get into that, but but there's a lot of truth to that. But there's value to everyone, and any relationship that I think about severing, I always, or at least try to always ask the question, what have I brought to the table? And if I can answer that and say, here's what I tried, here's what I tried to bring to the table, I can't do anything else beyond that. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the lessons I tried to instill in you guys was everyone has value, and what is the value you bring? So,
Absolutely.
all right. Anything else on that? That was great.
No, it kind of was a winding road, but we got to a point eventually.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
pretty standard of our conversations.
it's interesting to me that the three of us have all been in the service industry and continue in some capacity down that road. And
Yeah.
it's I think the three of us, I think all of our family likes people, genuinely likes people for the most part. And so it's a natural thing to want to connect with people. For me, it's I call it, doing the life's journey, finding people to do the journey with that make it enjoyable. Some are there for, like Andrew said earlier, some are there for a short time. Others, you're on that whole life journey together, and those are what make it worthwhile. When you have those friends that you can look back 3, 5, 15, 30 years and go, wow, you've been in my life a long time. And that makes it special.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think it's fun too that you've ended up kind of in the service industry because it's something that you kind of like not push me to, but like it's something that you did encourage in me, and I mean in all of us. But um it's funny now just like how life works, and that you now have the opportunity to kind of dabble in it yourself.
Yeah.
I take 100% credit, by the way,
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
for getting me into
for getting you into the service industry. Yeah. Yeah,
you,
yeah. No, I'll never forget that day because we were at the lake. Uh, yeah, we were out by the rope.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna say we were actually in the lake.
yeah, we were in the lake having having a drink. And you had just it was almost like you were like joking about becoming a server. And I was like, I know somebody hiring. You'd be perfect for it. I'll call him today. Like we
Right.
can get this set up now.
Yeah.
And it took what, like a week and a half? And you
Yeah,
were,
if that.
yeah, and you were on staff at CCT.
Yeah.
Um, I'm actually wearing their shirt right now, so
Nice.
represent.
That's nice. Yeah.
uh, no, but I think that, whether it's doing life with somebody for a long time, or whether it's affecting somebody's life for 15 minutes, I think that the service industry is such a unique animal. There's a Hoosier song, however you say his name, I don't know. But the whole like hook of the song is every day I fall in love with someone new. And of course he's talking about something different, but every time I hear that phrase, it to me, that's what the service industry is because I can meet someone, connect with them, learn everything about their life, learn about their son who just graduated college, and learn about their daughter who just went to a new country, and I can learn about their wife who passed 2 years ago, and I can connect with them, and I can have a very meaningful, true reaction or interaction with them,
Right.
where like I like for 30 minutes we were family. I was family with this person. And then they pay out, they tip me, and they leave. And it's one of the reasons that service industry work can be so emotionally draining, is because you see the best and the worst of society on a daily basis, and you are connecting with these people on a very real level. I mean, I know that there's bartenders who can get very cold and uncaring, and they do what they need to do to make tips. But to share a story with you guys, this past weekend we had a buyout at the restaurant, and it was this gentleman's 80th birthday slash retirement party. It was a surprise party. He had no idea it was coming. So he walks into the restaurant to a balloon arch, and a very badly done balloon arch, and 60 of his closest friends and relatives. And comes in, and he's got tears on his face and just completely awestruck. And we as a restaurant got to facilitate that.
Right.
And Andrew came out and did a sabrage with them, and being able to be a part of people's best and worst moments on a daily basis is draining, but it's so rewarding. And you really are able to do life with people, whether it's for 15 minutes or over the course of years. I mean, when the pandemic hit, I had regulars who were checking up on me, and we lost our jobs, and they were like, over Cash App or whatever, they were like, hey, here's $30. It's what we would have tipped you tonight. I have regulars now that they ask about me, they ask about Amy, they ask about my family. Some of them have met either you or mom on occasion, and so they ask about you guys, and they know that Andrea's in Jersey, and they're, oh, how's your sister doing in Jersey? Oh, how's your sister in Georgia? How's your niece? They ask me those questions because we connect with each other on that level on a daily basis, and that's something super special, but also incredibly emotionally draining.
Yeah. That's one thing I've learned in the year and a half I've been doing this now is when you're there, it's a full day emotionally. So, all right. Well, I want to wrap up this episode. Great conversation. I think I think it's for me. It's always good when I'm talking to you guys and hear how things from your childhood and even coming up through college and moving on to your own lives, how the past kind of has interjected or infused how you live today is very cool to kind of reminisce and think about.
It's fun to look back on too, because it's not something that you always equate,
Right.
to that. So it's cool to get the chance to just really sit back and reflect on that for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really nice. Really
Yeah.
nice.
I've enjoyed each one of these, but hey, for those listening, watching this, appreciate you taking the time. And if you would like to be a part of Life Lessons, please, I would love to have you on as a special guest and share some of your own life lessons. And remember to like, share, tell all your friends what we're doing here. Hopefully you're enjoying this. If there's a subject you'd like us to cover, hit me up, let me know. But until next time, peace and take care.